your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes every. You turn my morning into dancing. 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 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into dancing. You turn my morning into dancing. 'Cause your love changes everything. Your love changes everything. Oh, there's something about your love. Something about your love changes everything in my body. Oh, something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. It changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. Changes everything. Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything. You turn my morning into dancing. 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 Something about your love. Something about your love changes everything.
Good morning, Rooted Men. Matt Ryan from the Rooted Ministries. Pleasure to be coming to you this morning, this brutally chilly Friday morning with our new family member and one of our
Blue.
old ones.
Blue. Her name is Blue, and we have our other dog right here, Maisie.
I hope you're all doing well this morning. Hope you're got some plans to stay warm today because it is brutal out there.
It feels like 0 even though it's 7.
I know that we have our lighted Christmas parade tonight in Ortonville, and I'll be out emceeing that event and walking the parade. And I know I'm going to be pretty seriously layered up. Any of you who are looking for something to do tonight to be out and adventuring in the cold, would love to see you out there. I know that I think the Oxford parade is tomorrow, and so 'tis the season, right? All these things going on, all of it starting to certainly feel like Christmas. I know we had at the manger event last night,
our Christmas
and
stuff
there's
up.
just so much stuff going on, as always is in Advent. So we're still working through Ecclesiastes. I know that I don't know to say that maybe it's not the
She's heavy.
right time of year, I guess. Maybe, in an Advent study, and I know we're working through Tom's book and in the other devotional, and we we like to focus on certain readings, but in this study, we're just kind of continue on the calendar, continue working through Ecclesiastes. So much to gain in a reading of this book, as there is with every book. Everything kind of has its season and it's time to be read. But today, it's focusing on Ecclesiastes is focusing on the comparison again between the wise and the fool. And they use some different terminology to talk about it. We the book, that Solomon first wrote, right? The book of Proverbs deals so much with this comparison of wisdom and folly. And so not too surprising that we're back to it here. But even though this is one of those points that just seems like it's made over and over and over again throughout the Old Testament, why is it? Why do we keep having to revisit that well of wisdom versus folly? It seems that each time it's brought up, it's in just a little bit different way, almost like that, the whole speaking in tongue thing where everyone can hear it and understand it, right? There's so many different things that people relate to. And so being so critical to our lives, the quality of lives, right? Salvation itself, being wise, of course, being accepting the truth and the one true faith, right? Versus the folly, being pulled back into this kingdom or ruled by any of its standards, right? So I guess each time we approach that, it's not beating us up to hear it again. It's just, again, fine-tuning, right? So read through. As dead flies give perfume a bad smell, so a little folly outweighs wisdom and honor. Kind of saying, perfume, especially at that time, right, still is expensive, but certainly much easier to get a hold of in today's world. But you got to think about how rare perfume was and what it costs, right? So what that means is that would have been something you obviously took great care of, and just a couple of dead flies can spoil it, right? So you got to really think about, no matter how good something is, right? Wisdom and honor, a life well lived, can be spoiled, by something as small as the dead flies. Not to say that some mistake is going to, take you out of salvation, right? We're not going that far, but just being consciously aware of the value, surely if perfume is valuable, how much more valuable are we, right? So again, just a little bit of folly can outweigh. The heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of the fool to the left. Even as fools walk along the road, they lack sense and show everyone how stupid they are. If a ruler's anger rises against you, do not leave your post. Calmness can lay great offenses to rest. There is an evil I have seen under the sun, the sort of error that arises from a ruler. Fools are put in many high positions, while the rich occupy the low ones. I've seen slaves on horseback, while princes go on foot like slaves. Right? So, again, to me, this presents that vision of being rooted in the right kingdom, right? Taking thoughts captive is everything as we expect it should be, right? There can be surprises, and people can.
It's really hard to hold.
Sorry, I'm a little distracted this morning. So it's funny how many times I've heard this verse in a political context. And I agree, there's political context in here. A lot of people, and I'm not endorsing this, but a lot of people would use verse 2, right? The heart of the wise inclines to the right, but the heart of the fool to the left, as some kind of commentary or weapon to be used about American politics. Obviously, nothing like that here. But I do think there's certainly some political truth here in verse 6. Fools are put in many high positions. I think we can easily see that is the case, and it seems to be the case again and again, while the rich occupy the low ones. So rich here, I don't think we're really talking about wealth. Maybe we're talking about the rich in character, which to me brings up what is a really important question. And I think it was Rollin who brought this up. At a Bible study, it's probably been a year ago. Where is the Christian statesman today? In other words, where are the people who are unflappable and unshakable in their faith and leading out in the public? Not, this idea that so many people become politicians, right? And America was kind of founded on this idea that being a politician was a public service, right? It took you away from your estate. It took you away from what you did to make your living and your business or whatever it was. And so it was a sacrifice, right? Well, now obviously it's very different from that. But why does it seem to be so hard for faithful statesmen? Now we see a lot of people who use religion, maybe somewhat as a show, or maybe they're just not brave enough to take the political risk of wearing their faith out loud. But that question kind of boils down even more. Where is that? What they call the rich here, right? The people rich in character. Where is that character in men? I say men specifically, just challenging you men. In leadership, in our communities, in our homes, right? We have to remember that as holy, redeemed, and loved children of God, that we are like that perfume, right? We are that valuable thing that can be tainted, right? So what are we doing to kind of protect the worth in that way? Okay, she wants to get down. What are we doing to live in that understanding, that knowing of what we are, whose we are, and what that should mean? If this is true, which I know it is, then what? Then what fruit should I be seeing? What should be emanating out, right? How should I be leading my community? How should I be making an impact and a difference? And I think if we're working from that perspective as Christian men, change happens very small parts or small steps at a time, right? A community changes, a country changes when people start being true to who they are, true to the one true faith that they live in. And it doesn't have to be bold and out loud and on a street corner and, telling people they're condemned if they don't, it doesn't have to be. For some people it is. But for some of it's just in the people we encounter, whether that's at work or whatever else. Now, I happen to be in a political position now, which makes this very different for me. But in each relationship, in each opportunity that we meet somebody, are we seeing them as Christ sees them? Everybody you meet, Christ loved enough that he went to die that horrible death for. Every single person you meet. So what if we were wise enough rich enough to be leading, not just by example, but leading by living a life that is faith first, living a life that is unflinching, that is pushing the right values, right? By living them out loud, living them by example. So, man, I just want to encourage you that you are the perfume. What a way to put it. Not something you've ever been told before. But think about what that means. What it means to have this vessel, this very life, this very breath, that every morning you're created uniquely with a purpose. You are given a faith to live in and a faith to live out loud. So let's not allow the dead bugs to collect and poison what it is that we're made of, the value that lives within us. I love you, gentlemen. I hope that's a good word for you today. Again, I hope that you are finding ways to stay warm and have maybe some holiday activities to engage in, have some people that you love around you. Let's have a great weekend here. Let's make it a firmly rooted day, and may someone see Jesus in us today. Peace.